This is a game based on YouTube's very own king, MrBeast. I started off with this and turned it into this fully working, sometimes break game, so stick with me because a lot will happen. First things first, I created a project, placed a plane for the ground and added a cylinder which will later be turned into a cube and then into a tree. Because that's how trees evolved, right? Right? Oh wait, no, my bad. They come from paper. You will then have to protect this tree against lumberjacks who are trying to cut it down. Not all lumberjacks will try to cut it down though, as some are just thirsty for blood and will start to come after you. These huge scary lumberjacks will follow you and try to end your playing session. And then there's these little guys, look how cute they are, and they're okay, what the f. After setting up a basic scene, I made it so enemies are attracted to the tree, just like teenage boys are attracted to anything that moves. Speaking of attractive, this bean isn't. So I made this model inspired by MrBeast's Minecraft skin. I then put it in game and got some animations from Mixamo which worked perfectly fine and definitely did not involve taking down a monstrously huge MrBeast. The player upgraded, I also upgraded the testing world, and I'm not supposed to give my personal opinion on anything, but it's looking pretty good. And it's better than you know. I also replaced the cylinder with a cube which can actually be moved with physics, and the red beans quickly took a liking towards the cube. It's now time to upgrade these red things. I used the same model as the player, but instead of using MrBeast's Minecraft skin, I used a villager with lumberjack clothes. And something not a lot of people know about is if you zoom in enough, you can actually see it says subscribe to Zombie Monk. Just like that, it worked perfectly. You know what? Maybe these things shouldn't exist. So after committing genocide, I gave the lumberjacks an axe and the ability to attack. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't have given them an axe after killing their families. Hello? Oh shit! The way this works is there's a collider around the enemy and it won't actually collide with anything, but when it does, it will tell the game, hey, I just touched something, and if it's a tree, it will attack that. I used my limited modeling skills to make this sword. It has this logo on the bottom and the blade is made out of money because...
A bag of $15,000 and here's a bag of $15,000.
You've done this
Here's
before.
$5,000.
I don't.
Here's another $5 grand. $10,000. Give you $5,000. $10,000. $50,000.
Every time you attack, a random animation will play. I did, however, change this later on to a cooler combo system, but that's for later. I finally replaced the cube with a Minecraft tree, and speaking of replacing cubes with Minecraft trees, I replaced boredom with non-boredom. I don't know where I'm going with this, but the next thing I did was make impacts feel less boring. So I made it so whenever the enemy gets hit, an animation gets played, which stuns it for a bit, giving the player the time to hit it more. Whenever the player has less than 0 health, you of course want it to die, so I made it so whenever it does reach 0 health, it turns into a ragdoll, because ragdolls are cool. Me, 2021. Color-wise. My PC, however, doesn't really like all those ragdolls too much, and I really have this thing outside to make swords and stuff, so I don't need a second campfire. I made it so whenever the enemy dies, it dissolves after a while. With all the mechanics done, we can start walking on the map. I started off by making a sort of contraption, which is actually part of the secret lore of the game, which I will tell you guys about at the end of the video. I made this prototype of the map in Blender, which actually looks kinda empty, so I made these berry bushes by taking a cube and added some random noise to it, which I then distorted and remeshed it so that it's squared off. You know what else is squared off? The subscribe button. I mean, I'm just saying, you know? I then exported everything to Unity where I added grass and some post-processing, and with the map almost done, I added the last detail, but before we do that, we need some more enemies, so let's add those. So we already have the basic enemy, and so what I did for the second enemy was I just made this a bit smaller, I made the speed value a little bit higher, and ta-da! We have a little kid that's high on cocaine. Speaking of drugs, I mean special sugar, none of the two enemies attack the player, so remember how I talked about a huge lumberjack who will attack the player? Well, it's time to make it. I used the same template model I made earlier and just injected some special muscle sugars into him, made him slower than the rest and made his player the target. And this is the result. Now that the enemy is done, it's time to add the final detail for the map, which are rocks. For this I used the same techniques as I used for the bushes. The only thing I changed was I used cobblestone instead of the bush texture. Now I can drag the enemies onto the map and they work, but when we start the game, nothing really happens because the game needs to spawn them in. but it doesn't do that yet. So I made a script which contains an array or a list, which contains all the enemies in the game and then takes a random integer or number between 0 and the amount of enemies in the array, which then gets me a random enemy, which is then spawned onto a random spawn point. Remember how I said we were going to spice up the combat system later on? Well, it's now later on, so let's put some pepper on this. I made a combo system so that if you keep clicking the mouse button, it'll instantly do another attack right after the one you're currently doing. There's some very important things we still have to do, but before that, let's talk UI. It's not really looking good right now, so I took a screenshot of the game and took it into Pixlr, which is basically free online Photoshop, where I made things like the tree and player health bar, and a round counter, display of how many enemies are left in the round, etc. Some things vibrate. Do you know what you can do with those vibrations? Sounds. Wait, what were you thinking about? So I added sound effects, one for the sword and one for walking. And last but not least, some peaceful background sounds. When making a game, you don't want the player to be instantly thrown into the action, so instead you want them to think about how they're going to make a huge mistake while playing this shit show of a game. So I made a menu to do just that. For the background, I duplicated the map, after which I added these buttons which make a sound when pressed on. I then also added a peaceful background track.
It's time to eat.
I can't eat right now, Mom. I'm playing an online game.
Just pause it.
I can't pause it, Mom. It's online.
I don't care, just pause it.
I told you I can't pause it. You just pause your tennis matches with your friends. No, 'cause you can't.
I'm tired of your attitude.
Wait, no, Mom, I'm sorry, Mom.
This one's for all the moms out there. I added a pause menu so you can pause your game whenever your mom needs you. Hey, my mom's just calling me right now. When Genghis Khan killed all those people on his conquest, do you even know what they didn't see after they died? A death screen. Which is just a bad design choice. I mean, come on, Evolution, we play your game for so long, not even death screen. Unlike Evolution, I actually added a death screen to my game. Take that, Evolution. What you say? No, nothing, sir. Yeah, you're better. Oh, what an idiot. Wait, no, Evolution, I didn't mean that. Now the game is done, I can tell you guys about the backstory, but that's in a different unlisted video, which you can actually see in a few seconds. But before you do that, click the subscribe button, and there'll be a link in the description to download the game. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. If you want, you can click the backstory, maybe watch another video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.